Welcome to Growing Belleville Through Community Chats, a podcast presented by the Greater Belleville Chamber of Commerce to help highlight, promote, and enlighten people, businesses, and community events in the Greater Belleville area. Here are your hosts, Stephen Sedlak and Eric Huber.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Growing Belleville Through Community Chats presented by the Greater Belleville Chamber of Commerce. I'm your co-host, Stephen Sedlak, along with Mr. Eric Huber. How are you, Eric?
I'm doing well, Stephen. How are you?
Good. I almost forgot the title of our own podcast here this morning. So it's been one of those days.
It happens, man.
Yeah, no worries, right? Today, our guest is Jo Ann from the Small Business Development Center hosted by SIUE. How are you today, Jo Ann?
Doing great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. Well, like I said before we hopped on here, why don't you just kind of give a little quick overview, background of yourself, and for those that don't really know much about you.
Sure. So I come from a small business background myself. My father and his father, my paternal grandfather, started a restaurant when my dad was about 15, and my dad continued that legacy until he retired a few years ago, and my brother took over. With the pandemic, things have changed with the restaurant, but he is doing very well, and I think we're going on about 18 years there.
And now, how long have you been where you're at now?
So I actually started my journey with the Small Business Development Center as a graduate assistant. So I spent about a year and a half as a student worker. Then I moved on, spread my wings after graduation, got into banking and retail management, etc. And then I always kept my connection. I did some independent consulting, and I was able to come back in 2013 as the small business specialist. After that, in 2016, my predecessor moved on, and I was appointed interim director and then officially director in 2017.
So why don't you kind of give a little overview of what exactly you guys do there? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people that just are not familiar with it.
Definitely. We are a hidden gem, but I try to get out and about to make sure people are aware of our services. So if you're a new entrepreneur just thinking about starting a business, or honestly, if you're in business, even if you've been around for 50 years, there's still ways that we can help your operation. So we work with new and existing businesses to support them with their business plan, marketing strategy, HR, cash flow management. Really, what I like to say is that we're that shoulder to lean on. We provide advice, but even more so, we're that listening ear for them when they need help or have a question or just want to vent. And then if they're established, I know a lot of times business owners feel like they should know what they're doing, they shouldn't need help, but that's not always the case. You always can use that support, and we always make referrals. So we're not attorneys or accountants or lenders, etc. So we have a great network. So it takes a village, as I always say.
Well, I think it's important what you guys do, like you said, kind of that hidden gem that some people might not know about. But for anybody that's run a business or started a business, they know how hard it can be at times, right? And that there's nowhere to turn for advice on anything or nowhere to go to run ideas past. And sometimes you just feel lost at times.
Yep.
So, for you guys to be there, I think is a great resource that, for everybody that's used you, I'm sure would happily say that it was worth every time, everything that they spent with it and everything. But for those that haven't, I think, it'd be important for them to know you're there and kind of reach out in those instances. Because like I said, you can feel, alone in the world when it comes to those things.
Exactly. And we're not, we're supported by the SBA and Department of Commerce. So there's no cost. There's no fee for our services. Now, if we have to recommend that attorney or other professional, there will be those costs. But my time is always confidential and at no cost. And we supplement that one-on-one time, excuse me, with workshops and webinars. So that training, that additional information and just reinforcement of the ideas and resources that we talk about during our sessions. So a lot of our workshops are at no cost, or if there is a fee, it's very minimal, $10, $20, something like that.
Joanne, you just kind of mentioned it, your guys' workshops. Is that something that, like you said, new, existing owners, anyone can attend? How do they attend? Is it a class with SIUE? What does that workshop kind of look like with you guys?
So when you become a client of our office, you enter our database. So you'll start receiving our email distribution. So we use Constant Contact. We also have a Facebook page and a website. So anyone can find us, but if you're an existing client, you're going to get those emails. We probably do 3 to 4 workshops or webinars a month. So we're very active, and we try to mix it up. So they're not always for startups, and they're not always for established businesses. So there's a nice mix. We do our Starting a Small Business workshop every month, and we also have a how to get ready for a grant workshop every month. And that one, honestly, is for any stage in that life cycle of business. If you haven't already, obtained your DUNS number or SAM registration, et cetera, those are, explored and talked about during that session so that you can be prepared for that grant opportunity that arises. And then also, it deals with government contracting. So those are important pieces if you're going to get into government contracts.
Now, before we hopped on here, you mentioned a little bit about some of the things that you guys have going on, and one of them was your business plan competition. I think that's extremely important, for the success of not just businesses, but, in our industry and insurance, I've got a couple friends that every time they hire somebody, they have them put together their own business plan of how they're going to succeed. And I think sometimes some people, when they're starting off, not enough emphasis is put on the business plan. So kind of, you want to just dive into that and kind of what the competition entails and how you guys go about that?
Sure. This is going to be our 9th year. We usually announce the competition in June, with the first submission being due usually the first week or so of August, which is your executive summary. So it's just a one-page submission. The business plan can be very overwhelming and a lot of work. But it serves a great purpose. It's not only for that financing that you're going to more than likely need, but it's a management tool. It's a roadmap. So, like Ben Franklin said a long time ago, if you don't plan, you plan to fail. So even if you're not looking for financing, even if this is, a 5-year plan, just a short-term business, you still need to have that roadmap. It's a great way to assess where you are in the process and kind of go back and say, am I doing everything I said I was going to be doing? Do I need to ramp up my marketing? Do I need to hire someone, et cetera? So, and looking at the, numbers, looking at your sales and revenue, et cetera. So, that's probably 80% of what we do with clients is that business plan. And then we introduce them to a lender, or it just helps them, take those next steps, identifying who they need to hire, et cetera.
Do you guys deal more with startups, I guess you could say newer businesses, or already established?
Well, I would love to balance it out more, but we do see a larger volume of startups. Those new businesses tend to reach out more for that help. The pandemic did, help in one way. We were able to get in contact with more established businesses, but I would say probably 70% of our activity is pre-venture startup.
And just to follow up on that, do you think that's, my thought on it is that maybe there's some established businesses, and I don't mean a knock on them by any way, but maybe there's that ego that I don't need help. We've done it. We've been in existence. Do you think that might parlay into some of that?
I think it can. Definitely, they get set in their ways. They're almost embarrassed, I guess I would say, because they should know how to operate their business. They don't want to show weakness, I guess.
Right.
So yeah, it is hard for them to reach out. And I think, honestly, once you get past, those first 3 to 5 years, you just get into that, swing of things, and you don't always realize that there's other resources out there or other ways of doing things. Honestly, I mean, even when I get a new employee, they open my eyes to certain things. I kind of look at our office as its own business. We're helping businesses, and that's our business. But when a new person comes in, they're like, why are you doing it that way? Well, that's how it's always been done. Well, that's not a good answer. There could be more efficiencies in doing it differently or tackling.
Well, I think, sorry, Joanne. I think kind of like what Steven said with existing businesses, I see it on a day-to-day basis in the banking world and commercial lending and business lending. It's crazy that you see sometimes you get those business owners at the end of the year, like that's the first time they see numbers or they even look at numbers, or if they don't have a CPA that's on top of them on a quarterly basis, they're kind of owner operating, which I get. Some of them are hands-on still in the business and they're not worried about numbers. They're just working day to day, getting done with the work that's on their plate and over with type of deal. So at the end of the year, they kind of sit down and finally reviewing everything. What you guys do to help with that. I would think even existing business owners that are in that spot could benefit greatly on, okay, this is how you need to operate. We've seen and referred people to different CPAs where, it's almost life-changing for some businesses that, all of a sudden they're keeping track of things earlier on in the year. And at the end of the year, there's no panic, there's no worry because they know exactly what's going on.
Exactly. I talk about that external team. They focus so much as an owner on, the daily operation, the internal staff, but they need that team around them, like the banker, like yourself, Eric, the attorney, the accountant, the insurance agent. And like you just said, you need to meet with them and talk to them periodically, take them to coffee and, have that annual meeting or maybe even twice a year. This way you can get that plan in place and prepare so that you don't have that panic at the last minute. We do QuickBooks training, and that's just a tremendous benefit to businesses because you don't have that shoebox of receipts at the end of the year or whatever. You're able to manage your bookkeeping and reconcile your bank account and have all the information right there to create reports, invoices, payroll if you need it, all those things. So there's a lot that, we talk about fundamentally. And an established business gets in the routine of daily, operation that they don't always look at the numbers. They don't always, look at technology and things like that. I mean, the pandemic forced us to use Zoom and different things like this where it was there. We just didn't really need to use it before. So we got kind of pushed into it. So sometimes those business owners need that little push, but they don't always, know where to turn or they're just too shy or hesitant.
Well, and I think the pandemic also, people had to make that shift, right? They did have to change things in how they operated and with remote workers, whatever it be. So have you, I guess, going back to, existing businesses or anything like that, have you guys seen any uptick? Did you guys see any, I guess, more people reaching out during that time period, trying to learn how to shift and alter how they do their business successfully?
Definitely. We helped a lot with PPP and EIDL. I'm still working on EIDL increases, the Back to Business grant, the Business Interruption grant, and then, pivoting, like you just said. I had a business, a beauty supply shop, She was not delivering. She was not even doing curbside, any of those things during the pandemic. And, we had a great conversation. She started implementing some of these additional ways of reaching her customer and making things very convenient for them. And she was able to increase her revenue tremendously and get a new building, a bigger building. So sometimes it's hard to implement new strategies, but with a little bit of help and guidance and that gentle push, they certainly can pivot and take those necessary steps.
So what else do you guys, how you mentioned the grants and all that stuff. What else do you guys have going on right now?
So through the pandemic, we were able to help businesses through some CARES Act funding that we received. So CARES Act money came down through the state, and our office was able to bring on some additional advisors. So really reaching the Latino and the African American small business owners, web design. So helping businesses, maybe get into e-commerce, or if they didn't have a website, or maybe they were a newer business and they still, didn't have a website yet, we were able to do the web design. HR, like you mentioned earlier with remote work and some of the COVID requirements, really talking to businesses about their HR strategy and the rules and regulations, and, protecting their data along with customer data, because now employees are working from home, things like that. So we used CARES Act money to do a lot of those things. Cybersecurity was another area. And then recently, back in July, we became a community navigator, and we helped with the Back to Business grant. We're helping the state bring more awareness to the Advantage Illinois program and get lenders to participate in that funding opportunity for maybe women, minority, and veteran businesses, et cetera, that maybe have that gap in financing requirements. So there's a participation loan program called Advantage Illinois that we're getting the word out and helping the state get more lenders involved with that, and also bringing awareness to customers so that they can go to the banks and credit unions as well and talk about it. We're also helping with that Grant Accountability Transparency Act, GATA. So helping businesses get their DUNS number, their SAM registration, making sure they're in compliance and fully registered with the state of Illinois, the Secretary of State, et cetera. All of those things to prepare for grant opportunities that arise. This summer, there may be a startup grant coming out, and it's going to require that DUNS number and SAM registration. So we're helping with that. And I know a few years back, there was a grant that required that, and there was not enough lead time. So, all these businesses were trying to get their DUNS and SAM registration complete within like 5 to 6 weeks, and it just basically shut down the system.
Right.
It was too much. So we've been really proactive in all of that. Now, really this year, starting to get back to in-person events, but still offering those webinars too. So it's convenient. We can reach more people. I cover 9 counties. So we're in Centralia, we're in Greenville, Jerseyville, and we don't have to necessarily travel all the time with the technology too.
Sure. Yeah. Now, do you guys see one sector, people coming from one sector of business more than others, like construction or IT or anything like that? I'm just kind of curious.
Well, we help all types of businesses, but it is true. It seems like we kind of get a flood of a certain industry at times. There was a time where we had a number of daycares. I would say right now I see a lot of trucking and transportation, retail, restaurants. So I would say I don't get a lot of like medical or, real heavy technology, maybe not a whole lot of manufacturing. But we see a wide variety. I mean, even
I think that
actors, et cetera.
Yeah, no, and I think that's an attestament to you guys that you get these surges of certain industries because, everybody in an industry knows everybody, right? So most likely what they're doing is they're seeing the value in it and, they see somebody else that needs help and is referring you. So it just kind of builds that cluster of that industry that's coming in. So again, I think that's an attestament to what you guys do and how you help businesses. So kudos to you guys.
Appreciate that. Yeah, we definitely do everything we can to get them on that path to success.
Joanne, I'll just touch, you're hosted by SIUE. How's that relationship with the college and the campus or the board, who you guys deal with on what you guys are doing and the initiatives you guys are presenting to people?
It's a great relationship. I have tremendous support from the university. My dean, Dr. Schenecker, is very supportive. I can reach out at any point in time. And I love the fact that there's other departments as well that I can utilize to help these businesses, like mass comm for videography or web design, engineering. If I do have a client that needs a prototype or some other, technical engineering aspect. Even art and design from time to time helps us with logos and other, needs, signage, things like that. So it's a great relationship. I have a lot of access to, very smart and, people willing to help others and share their knowledge. I can bring in, guest speakers from those various departments. Through our CARES Act, we offer HR support, and I was able to bring in 2 faculty members to help clients and then also conduct some webinars as well. So it's a tremendous relationship, and we just share that vision of helping the community.
Cool.
Do you guys, and I don't know this, and I apologize for not knowing it, but I'm just kind of curious, but the one of the biggest topics right now for any business is, finding employees, finding good employees right now. Is there any avenues that you guys can assist people with on that part?
Well, I definitely help them get the word out if they have a job opening. There's students here at the university,
Sure.
There's staffing agencies. Workforce development is a great opportunity, and especially if there's training involved, workforce development can really help potentially with that training aspect, creating, a program to get those people up to par for that industry. I would say, we also have some other initiatives here at the university with digital credentials and things like that. So trying to help fill some of those gaps. I definitely have a few avenues. I've even talked to clients about, second chance employment, if it was a previously incarcerated individual. There's definitely some markets that they can tap into.
Well, look, we don't want to take up too much of your time, and we appreciate you coming on with us here today. But one last thing, how can people, I guess, get in touch with you guys? For one, if they want to be, reach out to use your services and all that. But 2, and I'm not sure how you guys handle that with kind of the, people that you kind of refer out for certain aspects, but if they want to, touch base with you in regards to that.
I would say the easiest way is via email. Sending us an email is going to reach us immediately. We are a small staff. We do try to man the phones as much as possible, but sometimes, we have to return a phone call, so it takes a little more time than an email. If you're looking for our workshops and webinars, you can check out our Facebook page, our website, siue.edu/SBDC, Small Business Development Center. Our phone number is 618-650-2929. We definitely look forward to helping in any way we can.
What's the email address again?
We have a general email. It's sbdcedw@gmail.com.
Okay. So that's the one that people, if they want to reach out, should email that one?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe my email and my colleague Marty's email are also on the website somewhere.
Okay.
As well.
Okay.
Perfect.
Well, hey, yeah, again, we appreciate it. And I think you're right. I think you guys are a hidden gem, and hopefully more people will reach out to you and utilize the great, everything that you offer. That's just a great benefit for them. So again, thank you for your time. We appreciate you coming on with us.
I appreciate the opportunity very much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Thanks, Joanne.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Growing Belleville Through Community Chats podcast. Please remember to follow and subscribe to this podcast and share with your friends and community leaders. For additional information from this podcast, please reach out to the Greater Belleville Chamber of Commerce.